During this video, I will be spoiling just about anything that occurs within this episode of Total Drama Island's newest season. I have done my best to ensure the title and thumbnail spoil as little as possible, but for the rest of this video, I cannot make any promises for this episode I'm talking about or any prior episodes in the same season if applicable. With all that being said, you have been warned. Hey everybody, QG here. So here we are, the first episode of the revival of Total Drama Island is here. Well, every episode is here now, sorry Terry, but nonetheless I will be discussing every episode and character, starting with episode 1. So before we're even introduced to any characters, Chris states it's been 15 years since the first season aired in the universe. It feels safe to assume that makes every character from Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3's cast at the very least young adults by now. Whether or not that'll entail them actually coming back in any capacity in the future is up for debate, but I suppose we'll find out. And then in the opening of the show, they also make a joke about how the writing team is full of monkeys who want nothing more than to see the world burn. Not only was that hilarious and instantly got me in the mood to watch the rest of the series through, but it also confirmed where the scene with the missiles come from. From here, we get to the intro, which has enhanced lyrics. Overall, I like it. It doesn't quite hit the same as the original, but it's much more fitting for this new cast anyways, so I think it's a welcome change. Though, very odd decision to not have Damien, Emma, or Chase featured prominently in it. Maybe a Total Drama first to not have characters in an intro in any capacity. After the intro, though, we get introduced to the cast. Terry confirmed on Twitter a while back that they didn't get to do audition tapes, but luckily they managed to work them into the character introductions for this season instead, which is honestly a really fun approach that I think pays off really well here. First up is Millie, a girl looking to write a book on the failings of her own generation. Really interesting character concept that I imagine can go one of two directions, either show Rubber Team the wrong way and get booted early, or go through a good arc that causes her to let go of her judgment of others, and as a result probably make it far. Next up is Axel, and listen, her design is really cool, and her voice isn't what I expected in a good way, but I have to admit her character intro is kind of bland. I don't like to be the kind of person that says a character is really similar to some previous character, but it really does feel like Axel is such a strange mashup of Sean and Ava, a combo I didn't really expect from her. Even so, a survivalist is always a welcome archetype, even if it's been done already. Priya is next, and I really like her. Despite her obviously horrible parents having trained her from birth to win Total Drama, going so far as to having her bungee jump on her own umbilical cord as she's born, she seems to be a real go-getter and driven. I imagine it'll be very fun to watch her work her way up the ranks this season. The next competitor, if you can call him that, is Z, who may very well be the most mellow character this show has ever seen. He's an airhead like Lindsay, sure, but he's super endearing and fresh to watch regardless. Ripper is up, and oh man is he. Ripper has already seemed to leave quite the impression in the fanbase, and based on just this first episode, it's easy to see why. Ripper is clearly not a good person, but he's refreshingly upfront about it. Like, he's bad and he knows it. I'm not sure how they made a character like that work, but it really does. Damien is the next competitor, and man, what a great concept for a character. It's like DJ from World Tour, but done correctly, it seems, or a more interesting way. Having someone on the show this far into the series that doesn't know what he's in for is a great idea, and I imagine he's going to really shine regardless how far he gets. Next is Lauren, or more commonly attributed to the name Scary Girl. She's, honestly, with a name like that, I'm surprised I didn't expect someone completely unhinged. It's a fun kind of unhinged, though, so I like it. Up next is Bowie, who leads with the fact that he's the first openly gay Total Drama competitor, which is nice to see. And while he's a flamboyant stereotype, he doesn't seem too far exaggerated like a character like him would be in earlier seasons. Chase is up next, and while it's not exactly what I expected of him, I can't say I'm disappointed that this is what we get from him either. He's an influencer that does pranks and lives in a really nice house and stuff, the type of influencer you've definitely seen online. He also has an ex-girlfriend who did some of these pranks with him as well. And next up is that very ex. Yep, Emma is in fact Chase's ex-girlfriend, and they both just happened to audition for Total Drama. Seeing as they're both influencer prank stars, though, it's safe to say these two will create a lot of good drama while also being good assets for the team in the process. MK is the next character to arrive, and she's a pretty interesting one at that. Her greatest skill seems to be that of a pickpocket, generally being pretty shifty it seems, so I imagine she's going to pull some cool sneaky stuff this season. But for the last time, Total Drama, stop making your East Asian characters so yellow. Next up is Eye Candy Caleb, who just about everyone gawks over. And that's pretty much all I got. There's not really anything else to say about Caleb at the moment. Wayne and Raj are next. They give me real Jeff and Brody vibes, but if they were way more Canadian. They seem to be really endearing on first impression, though, and I imagine they'll be fun to watch. Up next is Nichelle, an early favorite before the series released. Seems to be an actual movie/TV star. Presumably one who's already had a financially well-off future, unless something is up that explains why she's here. Finally, we have Julia, and wow, yeah, they are really nailing the influencer characters this season for sure. The amount of times I've seen a Julia in an online space is surprisingly more often than you'd think, and she's clearly been very well characterized here. Also, the reuse of the character won't give up their phone gag is really funny as always. From here, Chef assigns the teams pretty haphazardly, to be honest. Bit of a shame it was just random again. The Ferocious Trout are made up of Z, Chase, Ripper, Axel, Scary Girl, Millie, Priya, and Damien, while the Frogs of Death are made up of Nichelle, Caleb, Bowie, Wayne, Raj, Emma, MK, and Julia. Quick aside though, I'm not sure why they didn't just go with the Deadly Frogs. I feel like that would have had a much nicer ring to it, naming convention-wise. From here, Chris and Chef do the rounds of explaining the simple principles of how the show works that any Total Drama fan knows to heart by now. From here, we get scenes of the campers getting settled into their cabins, and honestly, these few scenes alone do a great job further establishing what these characters will be like in the season. For example, Priya is immediately turned off by both Axel and Scary Girl, so she gravitates towards Millie instead. Meanwhile, Bowie is already attempting to make good with Emma as a potential alliance member, while MK swipes a phone from Julia. Weirdly enough, though, Caleb and Nichelle seem to be completely absent in any of these scenes. Pretty odd choice, but whatever. Now it's challenge time, and the teams have to assign players to different tasks to ultimately get buckets of fish chum lifted up to a platform. Apologies if I don't end up putting too much focus on the challenges at times. It's not that I don't enjoy them, they're more just hard to describe why they work rather than just seeing it for yourself. There's a Murder Hornet reference in this challenge, so that's fun. I like the moment where they're explaining in depth how this challenge works and show off a bunch of new interns in the process. That was a neat touch. We get a funny scene where Ripper's pants get ripped, and Damien has a confessional where he's talking about how you can't show that kind of thing on TV. It's not laugh out loud funny on its own, but the concept of someone completely oblivious to how Total Drama operates in universe being a contestant on it is just such a funny concept that I'm not going to hesitate to bring up again and again. The challenge continues as normal with a bit of back and forth between each team's contestants. The first in competition nutshot of the season, barring Chase's audition, ended up being to Wayne, and it ended up being a protected one because he has a nut cup on. That was a really funny twist. I really enjoyed that. Not too long after this, we get to see Emma ready to air out Chase for what he did that caused him to break up. We get a funny line from Bowie about complaining about straight couples and that kind of thing. As it turns out, Chase cut the brakes on Emma's car, which led to her crashing into a pet store, and he also did not let her know that's what he was going to do ahead of time. It also explains why Emma stated prior that she wants to donate some of her winnings to an animal hospital. Credit where it's due, this is a wholly unique setup for a breakup that I've never heard of before, and honestly does a good job justifying Emma's anger towards Chase. During this squabble, though, Chase and Ripper get a huge lead over the other team and are already pretty close to finishing the challenge. In a panic, Emma tells Wayne and Nichelle to hurry up and get the buckets to the other side, but ultimately fail to do so right as the Trout win the challenge. We're thrown right into the walk-up to the first elimination of the season, and this time around, Chef is the one who gets to announce why certain characters may be up for elimination. As far as I'm concerned, this is a great change that makes Chef feel much more important than he did before, and I hope it retains throughout the series going forward. The bottom two arrives, and it's Caleb and Emma. Based on how the challenge went, it's fair to assume that Emma blowing up over Chase and thus costing her team precious time ended up being the definitive blow to her chances at continuing in the season. Except it wasn't. Caleb is, in fact, the first boot. Had it not been for promotional material and such, I don't think it would have been nearly as obvious, because it definitely, even having a very good feeling that it was going to be him going first while watching the episode, I was still kind of taken aback by how quickly it seemed to happen. Like, man, he barely got any screen time at all. He feels like much less of an entity than even Stacy, I would say. Like, he's very very not there throughout the one episode he gets. I also expected he himself to be the reason he gets booted, and instead it's kinda not, but kinda is. But as it turns out, Bowie campaigned with other members of his team to get Caleb booted off, not only to save Emma and most likely form a stronger alliance with her since he basically saved her, but also just to take out what he deemed was a big threat, seeing as initially everyone immediately liked Caleb just based off his looks. And I imagine it being, oh gosh, what is it, like season 7 of Total Drama by now? Anyone who's on the show would know by that point that you can't really trust the people that everyone is conventionally attracted to, you know, Justin and Alejandro and whatever, characters like that. Just, it was a recurring theme, and I can see why Bowie would instantly make a plan to get him out of there. But just like that, Bowie quickly cemented himself as one of my early favorites of the season, even if I wish that his scheme didn't occur completely off screen. He only tells the audience, like, through confessional what he did. They don't ever show anything. And it's not like Caleb ever shows at any point during the challenge that he could be a threat. He really just doesn't do anything. And yeah, a character like Caleb, teammates and characters in Total Drama are always going to be worried about a character like him. And yeah, while Caleb didn't exactly do anything wrong, he definitely didn't do anything to ensure his safety either. While the predictions on him being cocky may have been a tad off, they might have only been a tad off for the simple reason of how. Like, Caleb definitely could have made a better attempt at actually connecting with people as soon as he got there, and not deeming himself immediately safe for no real reason. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't do anything to warrant being eliminated, but he didn't do anything to warrant sticking around either. And I think those two combined with Bowie campaigning him as a threat is ultimately what got him booted. And I imagine it's a mistake he's not going to make in the confirmed follow-up season. After all said and done, we see Caleb carried away via the Drone of Despair, which is a simple but fun elimination method that's just humiliating enough that I really like it. So, yeah, there you have it. That's the first episode of the new season. Overall, it's pretty expertly done by the Fresh TV team, and it was nice to see Jennifer Persh be in charge of writing an episode again. I think this is definitely one of the better introductory episodes, even if it did feel a bit fast and dense at times. Here's hoping that the rest of the season continues to deliver like this. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, like and share this video with your friends to ensure that more Total Drama videos like this will come out as soon as possible. Until the next one, peace.